I'm going to talk to you about a small educational game that I helped make with South Australian Water. And we're going to talk about the process of taking it from a brief to the final product. So the game is a puzzle game. So that will play. Okay, so the game is a puzzle game. In it you have the pieces of a water distribution network and you have to put it together. There's only one way that it actually fits, and anything that's out of place will give you a clue. There's little clues that pop up here and here, and there's a help system which pops up on the individual pieces. And if you stuff it up and you test the plant,
This is no good at all. We can't just
tell you what's
water
missing.
back into the ocean willy-nilly.
Phew, nice save. Let's make sure the duckbill valves are in place.
Onto it!
Okay, now the duckbills are going to go into place. No, we're not going to test it. We're going to try one of the pop-ups, and it's going to give us some useful information.
The water you drink today might once have been dinosaur wee. Yep, all the water around the world has been around for a very long time. It keeps getting recycled over and over and over.
Good to know.
Perfect water, absolutely perfect. Water distribution network, check.
Okay. So I am Bastien. I'm a freelance game programmer. I've worked for a whole bunch of big companies, and I'm a Newcastrian. So the particular game you just looked at is a small part of a much larger educational centre built for the South Australian desalination plant. The brief was very large, and some included a lot of detail, and it was actually for it was all aspects of the education centre. So the primary developer on the game was a company called MonkeyStack. They're an Adelaide-based animation and illustration studio, and they pitched as part of a consortium of companies for the whole education centre. So the brief, the games were initially spec'd on a very, very big, very detailed brief, and a lot of the games were, it was sort of built by the people who had actually built the water system, so it was very complex and it was a very accurate simulation. It was probably very hard for people to play, and it would have been very costly to make. And so MonkeyStack helped cut it down over the course of several months into something that would be playable by, school kids at their education centre. So they created a design document, and from that design document they created placeholder graphics and sounds. And then I was brought on, and also another game coder was brought on to actually build it. So we built a prototype based on the design document and using those assets. A prototype has some of the assets are what's called placeholder assets. The animations are missing, and that's the sort of thing you can use on what's called Kleenex testing, which basically means you bring in a player who's never seen the game before and has a go, and invariably it turns out horribly. So the other reason they call it Kleenex testing is because you end up crying at the end. But from that, you get to find out a lot of things that you've probably missed when you were first designing the game, because your knowledge as somebody who's very close to the project is, you tend to miss things that somebody who's coming into it for the first time will see immediately. Once that had been approved, it was upgraded to a final game. We had professional QA. MonkeyStack had professional QA to test everything. They put in final art. They put in all those animations that you saw two of. But there's like 12 or 13 of them. And they did the final testing in the actual centre. So the game was completed on time and on budget. The result looks really good, and the client was very happy, which is good. Some quick notes on how the games industry has changed over the last few years. It used to be giant publishers making big games, and it still is to a certain extent. But now we're moving to a much more collaboration between small companies, similar to the film industry, where you have a lot of contractors. So we just talked about one small game, educational game made for a client, and the process of taking it from brief to the final game. Thank you very much.